Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Ben Goodman, and I'm very pleased tonight to welcome you to Learning from Legends, a new series that Adobe is kicking off, and very happy to be joined tonight by Sauvik Banerjjee from Tata Digital as CTO, and AB de Villiers, one of the most innovative and famous African cricketers of all time. This program called Learning from Legends is around understanding what some of the best in the industry have done through their career and their time facing adversity from the industry, facing adversity and competition, and building up the physical and mental strength to get them through challenging times. As we all know, with what's happening globally, whether it's around COVID or politics or various other things happening across the globe, physical and mental strength has never been more important. And it's never been a better time to learn from people who have gone through hardship, gone through challenges, and not just come out the other end, but leverage that to build successful careers and successful foundations for growth. So I'm very excited to be part of this series. I'm very excited to share with you tonight what we'll be going through, and looking forward to introducing you to some great people to share their stories and share their visions. So with that, I'd like to invite Sauvik Banerjjee. Sauvik is the CTO of Tata Digital. He is also the first person from India to be appointed as a founding editor to the Global AI and Ethics Committee to really help define the ethical usage of AI for all technology providers across the globe. So Sauvik, congratulations on your appointment, which is very recent, and welcome tonight, or welcome this afternoon to Learning from Legends, and would love to hear a bit from you to share with the team in India. So I'd like to really start with one question and really frame up Tata Digital, obviously a big part of probably India's most renowned international brand. I think a lot of people would love to understand the vision and the mission that you share for Tata Digital and the journey that you're on.
So thanks Ben. Hope I'm audible.
You are, yes.
Thank you. Thanks Ben for the wonderful introduction. Good evening everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning everyone, wherever you guys are. So yeah, Ben, Tata Group has been a 150-year-old institution in the country, kind of the DNA and the backbone of the country. There's about 640 million customers. They say you touch a Tata brand 10 to 12 times to 15 times a day throughout the life of an Indian consumer. We are very varied, from auto to steel to consumer-facing businesses, retail, financial clusters. So originally, what the idea was when a few years back, the Tata Group was rethinking the strategy, what would be the digital strategy. And one of the key reasons was we are a federated conglomerate. We have to stitch our ecosystem together. We already have a great ecosystem. And Tata Digital was formed with the intent of building B2C, businesses, products, platforms, technology products and platforms with a lot of data, primarily for the Tata Group as a result of using Tata Digital's products and platforms, a lot of the capabilities of primarily tech products, consumer-facing products, and build internet platforms and businesses. The intent is very simple. Tata Group's got the best of the world in TCS and Tata Comms in technology space in a very infrastructure, optical fiber and services part of our group's business. They've done extremely well. We needed to have our play in data, products and tech, and that's what we're building. We are still building the business. It's less than a year old, and soon we will go live with one platform at a time, and I would wait for to give you guys surprises rather than giving it away. But the vision is to build exactly what I just mentioned.
Fantastic. And whether it was insight or fortuitousness, if you think about what's happened globally over the last couple of months, the fact that there is a group within Tata who really owns the digital agenda holistically, both in terms of delivering on today, but also thinking about the future. And given the diversified brands, whether it's motors, steel, jewelry, Himalayan water, the Starbucks Tata Alliance, how do you envisage the future of retail and really the impact of digitization in a post-COVID world?
Very good question, Ben. When the first lockdown kicked in on the 13th of March, Tata Group has got a lot of retail organizations, a lot of JVs. Example, Chroma, Westside, Titan, Tanishq, and then you've got our JVs like Starbucks, Star Bazaar, Tesco's, and then you've got Zara. A lot of people were just calibrating how would the world be with the social distancing norms. And the first immediate thought process after people started to calm down, we got the pen and paper handy across various virtual tools, started collaborating and said, how do we keep selling to consumers? Look, the consumer demands were not stopping. We saw that there is an upsurge in e-commerce for our retail brands, which was bound to happen. Secondly, we started seeing a lot of innovative models. Example, virtual consultation, example, virtual engagement, grew in many folds, whether it be our electronics, whether it be our lifestyle. Tata Click, which is my ex-baby of mine, which I built over the years, they saw a lot of good upsurge. Chroma has also seen upsurge on their online, and I think it's organically now with a little bit of relaxation, still lockdown primarily prevailing. I think the brand Tata is where the country always looks up to, somewhere where we are able to help the people of the country. And so that trust we have, and it just comes with a lot of power and responsibility. That trust is what has prevailed. The consumers have kept the trust. They have kept remaining engaged. Buying, of course, has started to happen. But the beauty is that there is a far more stronger bunch in the Tata Group leadership, in every Tata Group company's leaderships. They're far more determined to make this happen because one thing which Tata has always prevailed, and I must tell you, they've seen a 1928 pandemic. They've seen the two world wars. So Tata Group always bounces back. And I mean, you guys have seen a lot of announcements what Tata Group is trying to do. We're holding very strong, that's for sure. And our strategies are getting crystallized, and we're implementing. Don't know how long this pandemic will last, but we are trying to create a world where engagement remains.
It's interesting. You mentioned obviously the diversity of brands within Tata Group, and as I've been working in India, I just think about the interactions I have, whether it's on the Tata Himalaya water on Vistara Airlines or the Starbucks at the bottom of our building. And the one question that kind of comes to me, and it existed before COVID, is even more critical now, is that you can deliver digital experiences, but the brands and the conglomerates that deliver the best ones are those that both deliver a exceptionally personalized digital experience and also start to look at me as a customer across all of your brands. How do you think about obviously delivering the delightful digital experience for your customers, and where you want to look for both digital brand consistency versus where you might want to look at digital brand uniqueness?
So digital brand consistency is, I think, one of the key tenets of Tata Digital to bring the ecosystem together. So we are work in progress. But what is interesting, what you said about personalized experiences, in today's day and age, the amount of data which is getting accumulated, both in semantics mode and in neural mode, there is no way I can build a great experience if one-to-many and one-to-one relationship for online assets, offline assets like the POS, POS systems, the Android, iOS world, and then the browser and the PWA world. I can't build a one-to-one experience if I don't leverage the capability of data. Example, I'll give you one conglomerate who has Sauvik Banerjjee. So example, you and I are all both customers of one brand. And the attribute set is about 10 attributes we know about Ben, and Sauvik's about 10 attributes we know. If I add another brand where I am actually building a giga profile of both Ben and Sauvik, I am adding more and more attributes, more affinity models get added, more projection and behavioral and intent models get added. So it comes up from ground up, but at the end of the day, the giga profile will still prevail. and if I get a rich attribute set of a human being, then I can build those experiences, personalized experiences accordingly. Now, you can say, are we going to use AI primarily for that? Probably yes, but I can still use a very semantic decision tree based AI and give an experience. Learning based experience, I don't believe in the word of machine, I believe in the word of device, because today we are living in a device world, which is in our palms. If the device can understand the behavior without snooping in, what a lot of people have been accused for, and if I keep it healthy and ethical, then I also can give you a personalized experience. And that experience can move, and the data can move about your patterns into the POS. And of course, there are very many other ways through geolocations. So ultimately, experience is built over a period of time, which is 1:1 or 1:many. Hope that answers the question.
No, it does. And I think you kind of touched on a point there, which is the right level of personalization. I think there's a lot of discussion in the press right now around the ethical use of data, the ethical use of personalization, and obviously a topic that's very close to your heart, given your partnership and your contribution to what will be hopefully a global policy in terms of how the best organizations adopt technologies like AI and other learning techniques. I want to shift slightly, if I can, and maybe out of your realm in Tata, but more going back to your history. You've got a history of obviously being a very big cricketer and at the national level for many years of your life. And as you start to think about the lessons you learned through your time playing cricket, how do they apply both in your professional life day to day, but more importantly over the last couple of months as you, like everyone else, has navigated through this really unprecedented state of living?
So yeah, I mean, I played professional sports, and two professional sports, cricket being primarily one, a lot in India. I played Ranji Trophy for Bengal. Then I went on to play minor counties in England for many years. One thing, Ben, I have learned is the COVID situation to a cricketing situation has a very strong metaphor. See, COVID hit us straight away. In cricket is all about every day you go into the ground. You might be a hero one day and you might not be a hero the other day. You might get 5 wickets and you might get 100 one day, but on the second day you might get a duck and you might get tonked across your 10 overs. And being an all-rounder, my biggest learning from cricket, which I have seen and I've tried to implement, is how to remain mentally strong every day. So what's happening is, if I say, how will my next 120 days of lockdown pass? If I start thinking of that, I'm taking a lot of mental baggage straight away. I use the cricketing parlance where I'm playing a tournament, I'm playing a league, when I've got 22 games a season or 30 games a season every Saturday or Sunday in English League cricket. And every day is a new game. So the way I look at it, COVID, is, yes, everything has changed. We are wearing masks and hazmat suits and headgears to go and buy our groceries. We never knew this would happen to the world. But the beauty is, if I accept what that world is, and I can only accept if I'm mentally strong to take every day at a time. If I think that what will happen to me 3 months down the line, where the governments don't know, where the projections of the numbers are spiraling, vaccines are probably getting made, but the common man don't know. I'm using every day as a way. How I used to do when I used to play cricket is wake up in the morning, train hard, get onto your machine. I'm thinking okay, I'm going to my ground. I have to get a 100 overs game up and running, and I have to perform at my best. And then at the end of 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening, I switch off, spend some time with the family, and tomorrow morning I wake up again. This routine takes a little bit of mental strength. Best derived from sports. Any sports you say, they switch on in that morning, whether tennis or football, and switch off in the evening.
Fantastic. And I think, obviously, in line with that, I think you're going to be very excited by our next speaker. So, Sauvik, I'm going to say thank you for now. I'm going to have you come back a little bit later to answer some of the questions from our Q&A. But I'm now very excited to welcome AB de Villiers. For anyone who doesn't know AB de Villiers, and I think everyone on this call definitely would, one of the most innovative cricket players of all time and recognised for just the diversity of stroke play, the diversity of roles that he can play within the team, and the current world record holder for the fastest 100 ever in a one-day international. So AB, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to join us tonight.
Thanks, Ben. It's great to be here. Thanks for that very kind and generous introduction.
Fantastic. So let's jump into it. I'm in Singapore. Most of the people on the call right now are in India. You're in South Africa. We're all having very different experiences with what's going on in lockdown and in different states. So just very keen to get a view for you in terms of what your lockdown's been like, and both for you and your family, and what's it been like for you over the last kind of 60, 90 days.
Yes, first of all, it's obviously not an ideal situation. I think a lot of people are going through a tough time globally. And certainly for us as a family, there have been some very interesting and different challenges. I always like to see the glass half full and like to see opportunities in trying times. And I think the opportunities and the special things that came from this lockdown is probably spending time with the family and quality time in that. And more importantly, really being aware of your surroundings and people that I need. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that has been more true than ever in the last few months for me.
Fantastic. And look, philosophically, I think that's a great approach that a lot of people can definitely take from. I'm going to pivot slightly, and before we talk about kind of your cricketing career, one of the things you're most known for outside of your cricketing career is just doing a lot of great work with the community on many different elements. And I'd just like to get your take in terms of your personal philosophy of both giving back societally and using your career as a platform to really kind of raise the ship for everyone, or raise the tide for everyone else. Just like to get a bit of perspective on you and how you approach that.
Yes, that's a good question, because the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me that question is immediately, am I doing enough? And I think that's a very normal thing to feel for anyone. Something that I've really realized over the last, I think, couple of years, not really just the lockdown, is the smallest gesture can also have the biggest impact. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to raise millions of dollars every time you're trying to do a good cause. Sometimes that happens, and it's fantastic to have a small say in those initiatives and drives and to create awareness wherever I can. But it's sometimes also good just to look around you, your neighbor, the people that clean our dustbins in the mornings, etc., etc. A cold drink at the right time for the right person can make a huge difference in someone's day and ultimately in someone's life. I mean, if you turn someone's day around, put a smile on his face, it makes a huge difference. Now, I've done some very nice things in the last world with some very impactful people like Virat. We've raised some funds with our bats that we use in the IPL in one very special tournament. And then I've been involved in quite a few other drives. But personally, I don't really like to be in the mix of it when it comes to showing my face. I like to do things under the radar when it comes to doing good. And that's just a personal thing. But my point is, the smallest gesture can make the biggest difference. And sometimes it feels like a mountain to climb. But I think we sometimes look too far. We just got to look right in front of us and make that small difference. And from there on, you build momentum.
Absolutely. I think there's something you touched on there. One of the things I've noticed about some of the greatest athletes from history whilst their careers have been phenomenal, what they did in the sport was exceptional. What you find out about them many years later of all the things they did outside quietly without anyone knowing. I think there's a lot of humility, obviously going through sports and building up that team camaraderie and the tenacity in there gives you a lot of humility, especially in cricket, which is a much more humble sport than many others. And so I'd just love to kind of get your perspective as you kind of think about your learnings from being part of some of the most famous African cricket teams. What did it mean to you in terms of kind of crafting your persona, crafting your humility, crafting your personality, and how did you change through your career in cricket?
See, I was quite fortunate the way I was brought up. I've got two older brothers that certainly never allowed me throughout my earlier years to get ahead of myself. So straight away when I joined the Proteas setup, I think I was already used to answer to senior players, to listen to a coach, to obey to certain tasks that we need to do. And it was a natural thing, but certainly a lot of things changed in my 14 years playing for South Africa. I mean, I took a lot of sporting lessons, but more importantly, life lessons out of that. I think Sauvik alluded to that earlier, as cricket's got this knack of really giving you a big high, but it can also really get you so low in a matter of 24 hours, in a matter of the same day. So it's an incredible game, and it forces you to keep your feet on the ground, to keep working. And you always have that choice. Are you going to give up when the times are tough, or are you going to really fight through it and build more character and be more prepared for the next challenge? And luckily for me, I saw the light in some dark places, and I hung onto that, and some things changed quickly. And that's probably the greatest lesson I learned, is things can really turn around in a matter of seconds. It's just a matter of never giving up. Trying to take the learning out of failures and standing up stronger as an individual.
Fantastic. So I want to now pivot a little bit, if I can, to your cricketing career and kind of lean on, as you said, the lessons that learned there. And you obviously looked up to a lot of players. You saw a lot of guidance. You listened to advice. You're also known as one of the most unconventional cricket players in some of your, whether it was batting or keeping. How do you start to, in a very positively institutionalized game like cricket, where stroke play is taught you from a very young age, and the muscle memory in terms of how you do things is really engineered in quite young? How did you approach the unconventional nature of some of the things that you did, and how did you take the decision to say, right, I'm going to come here and do a reverse sweep in a circumstance where it might not have called for that kind of shot? I'm just really interested in the psychology of how you decided to do what you did and when you did it.
That's an interesting question, and I can certainly take a lot of time in answering that. I think the best way to explain it, it'll be silly of me to take a blind stance in the fact that there is a bit of natural talent when it comes to that. I've always had the natural ability of hitting a ball, whether it's a tennis ball or a golf ball, and do some incredible things from a young age. I mean, not incredible from a young age, but for instance, when there'd be a tree in the golf course right in front of me, I would have the ability to see a shot around the tree to get it on the green. But a lot of people have that kind of vision. The most important things, I think, to me have been, the first thing is an incredible desire to want to do special stuff. And that you can teach yourself. It's the desire to want to be the guy who's going to make a difference. And a very good example is a Virat Kohli, and another one I can think of is a Steve Smith at the moment. Especially Steve Smith, possibly not the most fluent natural sportsman I've ever seen, but you know that guy is prepared to put anything on the line to be the guy, last man standing for his team. And those are the kind of opposition you don't want to play against. The second thing I want to touch on is the basics. Now, nothing that I do on the cricket field would be possible without really drilling in the basics over a very lengthy period of time. If you don't do that and you get something right, it'll be seen as luck. And so the two things I think I got right is really drilling down the basics from age 20 to 25. And secondly, I've always had that deep desire and passion to do amazing things. I want to entertain, but more importantly, I want to walk off the field and see the joy in my teammates' faces, knowing that, you know what, you just did something special for a group of people to get us in the right direction. And that's those two things, they are non-negotiable. And then obviously a natural talent also plays a role, but I would say a much smaller part.
So one name you did mention there, which I was quite surprised, is Kevin Peterson. And I go back to when he reversed his foot stance. I'm interested in your take. What was your view on whether that would be considered a legal stroke or not?
Look, you make the game so hard for yourself. It must be a legal stroke. It's certainly not easy to pull off, and I think why I say it must definitely be a legal stroke and always will be is you put so much on the line. You put your teammates on the line, the media, the opposition that'll laugh at you if you get out like that. So if you do fail in that situation, doing something silly or that's perceived as silly, you put everything on the line, and if you do pull it off, you deserve all the rewards that come your way.
I like that philosophy. I think I think a lot of people agree with you. I remember watching that match and going, I'm not quite sure how this one's going to be taken. So um, I want to pivot slightly and really kind of talk through a psychology that's going for a lot of people right now, which is with everything happening at COVID, there are opportunities that present for people. It might be a period of time when lockdown opens up and people want to go out and kind of reconnect with their friends. It might be a business opportunity that comes up where you've got some governments that might be looking to invest in programs to support society. And you get these short windows where you have an unprecedented opportunity and people have potentially never been faced with that potential before but don't know how to approach it. And I want to reflect back on January 2015. You're playing the West Indies. You have an amazing start, and there is the potential, whether you knew it or not, to break the world record for the fastest ever century in one day that still holds. Talk me through the 31 balls that you faced to get to that 100. What was the psychology behind in terms of how you started? And at what point did you make the decision to go, I'm just going to go for this and deliver what was one of the most outstanding centuries I've had the pleasure to watch?
Thank you. It's once again, it can be a long story, but I'm going to sum it up to you in a few sentences. First of all, preparation is key. Certainly in the lockdown times, everyone knows and everyone talks about it. If I hear one more person actually telling me there are so many opportunities, I might get sick, but it is a fact. But it doesn't mean that you're just going to all of a sudden push a button and everything's going to happen for you. It comes with incredible preparation and years of getting yourself ready for that opportunity. That's number one. So 2015, I started in 2004. I had five really rocky years up and down. Came 2015, I was captain for a few years for the Proteas. As a leader, I was comfortable in my own skin. And as a player, I was more prepared than ever for the months coming up, and specifically the 2015 World Cup. So prep was in place. And then secondly, actually last night I finished off a book, very interesting, saying that it's actually a book of a boy, a horse, a mole, and I can't remember the other thing. But anyway, long story short, the horse told the boy, never worry, because everyone wings it in any way. So when you doubt yourself, just know that the guy next to you who's made it before, he also just winged it. Yep. So that played a huge role on that day, and for that whole season, I literally made a conscious decision that I was going to walk out every time I bat. I'm going to put my chest out, no matter how scared I am, no matter how much I'm shivering and shaking, which, by the way, I do every single time I play. But that specific game, I remember walking out, I put my chest out, I made eye contact with every opposition, and the first ball went for 4, and that's opportunity. Then I realized right there, the guy bowled a slower ball, Jerome Taylor. I sensed a bit of weakness. And then because of the preparation, because I winged it a bit with my body language, faked it if you want to call it that, I got the first one away. The bowlers showed weakness, and I decided I might get out of the next 10 deliveries, but I'm going to make this my day. I don't care. So it's a combination of a lot of things, but I'd say preparation. I didn't just, it wasn't luck. Then I winged it with my body language. I faked it a bit. I pretended like I'm better than I really was, which eventually you surprise yourself sometimes, and you play better than you could possibly imagine. And the last thing is courage. Really, when you see that opportunity, sometimes the percentages are going to be 50-50, but if you have that feel in your heart and you're ready for it, you got to show some courage and put everything on the line to make it work. And I'd sum it up in those 3 points. I took a long route around it, but I think that explains it.
No, I think thank you for that. I think if I summarize the fake it till you make it piece in there, and whilst it's probably a much more simplistic version, it is really now probably the single biggest power that people have, is that if no one's gone through what we're experiencing now, no one has a frame of reference for what it's going to look like. And therefore, it's never been a better opportunity to try new things, trying different approaches, whether it's psychologically in terms of your own mental welfare, whether it's physically in terms of your exercise regimes or at work. And I think that's a really good message for a lot of people who are kind of navigating through everything happening right now.
And that's a fantastic point. Sorry for interrupting, but But even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, pretend like you do. You know what I mean? Because a lot of other people are also doing it. And you might just surprise yourself with your instinct and your gut feel that comes through. Instead of sitting back and keeping quiet, pretend like you know what you're talking about because you've done your homework and something might just pop up. And if you see that opportunity, you show some courage and you go for it.
Yeah. And your projection of confidence typically raises as well because obviously your performance in our match was phenomenal, but what it did for the South Africa team for that series as well in terms of just establishing where you were, the impact of your innings wasn't just on you, it was on the whole squad. If you look at your career, you've been part of some incredibly memorable matches, memorable teams. I'd love to kind of get from you as you reflect back on your career. What are the really big memories that stand out for you in terms of famous matches, best wins, best losses, best teams you've been part of?
Yes, you just touched on it before you asked the question. So I've had some amazing memories and I've created some incredible friendships over the years from my own teammates to opposition from all over the world as well. And those are probably memories that will last me for a lifetime. But the most important thing of all these cricketing matches that I remember, and I think of wins and losses. I think of the 2015 World Cup loss against New Zealand in that semi-final. I think of incredible wins in Australia and England, a double hundred in India. I can go on a list that things that I've really enjoyed. But the thing that I think about when I go back into my memory bank is the group effort and having that impact on what we are trying to achieve as a team and ultimately getting there after a season or two or three. I think Virat actually posted something on Instagram a day or two back where he posted some pictures and saying there was a loss in Adelaide in Australia many years back, but that was an integral part of where they are today as a test team. Now, as an individual, I can play some great knocks and it comes and it goes. But as a team, you work on a specific point for 4 or 5 years at a time. I mean, you can't beat that. And it's incredible to have a small part and to contribute in that. That's what it's ultimately about. And before you ask the question, you just touched on that. But that fastest 100 that I played in Joburg, that was my best memory. First of all, when I walked off, I remembered, hold on, my mom and dad was here today. Wow, I got a bit emotional walking off, realizing that. And then the minute I looked at the balcony and I could see the faces, like, you just did something special and we feel a part of it. That really bound us as a team, and that's why I play the game. It's not for myself. I mean, how lonely would that be? It's really just contributing, even if it's a 1%er in my personality or attitude or energy that I bring to the party. But if I can contribute a little bit for a big group to achieve something special over a long period of time, that's why I play cricket.
So, to me, that is the antithesis of, the epitome in terms of why I think cricket is one of those games that just resonates with people at a religious level. And many years ago, I was talking with one of the ex-England cricket players who will go unnamed for reasons, but his philosophy was when you play a game for 5 days and when you choose to give up 5 days back to back, what it says in terms of your commitment to the crowd. And then when you see those crowd members that wear that distinct T-shirt that you know they're there for all 5 days of you, there's kind of a reflection in there that they're part of your game and that you're part of their enjoyment. And he was telling me that he would always know in the crowd on day 3 who were the people he was actually batting for, because they were the ones that were there, whether winning, losing, normally building those giant snakes out of the beer cups. But he said that was why he played cricket. And when he stopped seeing those people coming, that was the point at which he wanted to retire from cricket. So I think that very much resonates with what you just said there. You've been a big part of IPL. Really keen to get your view in terms of obviously going from Test to one day to 2020. What's been your experience with IPL? What's been your experience playing in India for an Indian team versus the international stage when you've been representing South Africa?
Yes, I've been very fortunate to have been part of the IPL from the first year. I can't go into it deep enough what it meant to me as a person. I've been played in India for so many years now and haven't been accepted as one of their own over the last 5 or 6 years. Something very special happened where I sort of started feeling like one of their own. And once that happened, India obviously climbed into my heart. It's been a very special ride. It's a whole different story and scenario than playing for the Proteas. I'd say the Indian experience and playing in the IPL for, I think it's 13 years now, it changed my life completely. Experiencing that, living away from home for over 2 months at a time every year, it was a challenge in itself. And then growing fond of the country, the culture, the people, the cricket is just unbelievable. I mean, walking out to bat, it's electrifying, and showing everything that I have to those crowds, because I know that they appreciate it so much by the way they react. I picked that up, and that just started driving me more and more. But I'd say the biggest test over the years have certainly been the pressure. Huge crowds, you get paid well, you get looked after like you're one of their own sons, and the pressure to day in and day out having to perform. So there's huge expectation on your shoulders. And dealing with that certainly played a huge part in the person that I am today, understanding the pressures in life. And because it's more than just cricket there. It's not, you don't just see the cricket ball around and you walk off and you go on. It's more than cricket. It's really a lifestyle. It's everything. And you want to be part of that, and you want to give them what they're expecting. From the crowd to your teammates, the owners. It's a big business, and I've been very privileged to have been a part of it.
My first trip to India, this has been 7 or 8 years ago. I remember going to one of the technology campuses and seeing the massive field that had probably 10 or 11 games happening. And I played as a child, and I remember asking one of the people I was with if I could go play, and I thought it was amateur cricket. And after one ball that got me right in the leg, I kind of walked off in my suit and went, they're playing at a grade that most state grades play in Australia, and that's the amateur lunch hour cricket. So it's to an extent a religion in India for all the right reasons. Last two questions, and then I'm going to invite Sauvik back. But obviously, you've got a special relation with Virat Kohli. Very keen just to understand a bit more about kind of your history with him and your friendship, and also how do you rate him as a player?
I think first of all, we became cricketing friends, and we respected each other as cricket players. That changed over years, especially when we started playing together at RCB. That respect went much deeper than I like the way you bat and I like the way you bat. I started watching him, the way he prepares off the field, the way he treats other people, just basically what he's like as a human being, and very quickly realizing there's also just a human being, there's a soft guy who loves spending time with people, who loves giving, and once you pick that up, you start really appreciating his performance so much more, because you know that behind that whole performance is actually just a human being and a boy like I am, and most people are like in the crowd. So the funny part of that is, and being an entertainer, people in the crowd don't always know that. They see this celebrations and this competitive fighting spirit, never say die. But I certainly picked up that kind of respect for him as a human being very quickly. And once that happened, I realized that that's going to be a friendship that's going to last forever. It's going to go much deeper than just a few years playing for Royal Challengers Bangalore together. I have the world of respect for the way, first of all, he treats other people, the status that he has, with a population in India of 1.3, I think close to 1.3 and 0.5 billion at the moment. It's a difficult thing to treat everyone on the same level all the time, and he certainly has found a way to do that. So I have a lot of respect for him, for what he's achieved as a person and a player, but more so the stability that he has as a human being and how he treats other people.
He's certainly a person who's got a lot of respect from people within India and outside of India on kind of all facets of what he does, and just a great human being and individual. We spoke a lot about mental strength earlier, and I think growing up, you said 2 older brothers, there's obviously a level of mental strength that builds, probably just growing up in the house. In terms of your training, and obviously now on lockdown, how have you found balance in physical strength in terms of conditioning your body and keeping, even after you stopped playing international cricket and now whilst it's a bit quieter, what have been your techniques for maintaining your motivation through training and exercise?
I've been very lucky that I invested in some very basic gym equipment not long ago. And I have a small room. It's not state of the art, that's for sure, but it's a big enough room for me to work out every day. I think I've missed about 4 days in total throughout the lockdown, either running, doing my core work, strength work. My two boys that are 3 and 5 now, they are a gym session in itself throughout the day. But even if I didn't have much own gym equipment, I would find a way to stay busy outside. I'm just an outdoors person, and I won't say I was born with it. It's once again a decision you make not to sit in an office all day or spend time in front of the TV all day. I made a conscious decision early on in my life that I want to be fit and I want to be healthy. Look, I have my cheat days where I do enjoy watching a TV series and the odd chocolate or whatever. But I love working out. Just the feeling it gives you, the sense of purpose that I'm going somewhere with this. If you play cricket again, I want to be in tip-top condition. I want to be as fit as the youngest newcomer in India. I want to compete with them. So for me, in order to do that, I've got to stay busy. I'm as fit as I've ever been. I've only had 2 net sessions in the last while, so I'm slowly but surely starting to eat some cricket balls again. And that will definitely pick up pace and intensity over the next month or two. But I love staying fit, and I think it's a choice you make.
Fantastic. I want to invite Sauvik back to join us. I know Sauvik obviously is a big fan of yours, and I think he's got a couple of questions on his mind I'd like to ask you. And I'll also ask if there's anyone in the audience who wants to put any questions in the Q&A. We'll ask those in a couple of minutes. So Sauvik, welcome back. Any questions you want to ask me?
So, good evening once again, AB.
Hi, Sauvik.
Hi. I remember clearly one game which changed the entire paradigm of the cricketing world. The Proteas chasing 434 and getting to 438 for 9 in the last over. See, that game kind of changed the way world cricket was looked at. 400 scores, that was the first. During that break, when Australia scored 434, you kept on talking about team, and I must say I'm a bigger fan of you speaking as well now, like the way I've been over the years. What's the mindset? You're always talking about team, and I've followed you around over the years. You always give team the credit, even when you've won, and always defended when you skippered. That transition, that lunchtime, 434 to chasing 438, because that's never ever been replicated over the years, apart from one game, which is England and Australia, and I think Edgbaston a couple of years back, or 2 or 3 years back. What was the mindset of yours and the team going into chasing 434? And you guys did it. And what was the build-up during that? Because you lost 9 wickets. The entire team contributed. That's one question. And then I have another question on innovation that will take a short while. So give us some thought process about the team mentality, how that was achieved.
It was a very interesting cricket game. I was quite young back then still. I think it was early 2007, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think Herschel Gibbs got a big 100, yeah.
Yes, I've only been, at that time, I was only 3 years into my international career. I must be honest with you, I was at a stage where I was still a little bit in the dark space, That game, I remember halfway Jacques Ellis making a joke and saying they are a few runs short, and everyone bursted out laughing. We found it very funny at the time, but in a way that sort of broke the shackles a bit, or made us feel a little bit more relaxed about it. There were the target was so abnormal and ridiculously out of context that we didn't take it up too seriously. We are naturally a fighting nation, and look, even if they got 600, I believe there are quite a few individuals that believe we would get it, or we're going to come close at least. So that natural fighter's instinct was already there, and we didn't overanalyze in that. You only had 40 minutes, which I think was crucial. We could have had a coach who came in there and with a whiteboard and like, come on, quick, let's turn this around. I think that would have made us a lot more tense. Jacques Ellis did that joke, and the rest of us just laughed. And I could see some guys starting to talk about the first 10 overs, how we're going to approach it. Tiny little chats within the room that was very casual and not too intense. And it didn't take long. I think when the game's second inning started, it took us about 5 overs we already had a sense in the change room that we're going to either come very close today or we're going to make it. And once that belief started in the change room, everyone just who went into bat just had that same kind of aura about them. And I think the Aussies could feel that because they started making mistakes in the middle of the game that was very unlike them, but they could feel that aura and the crowd getting on top of the whole game. And it's amazing what you can achieve when you just have a little bit of belief. And once again, a group believing in the same thing and moving in the right direction is very dangerous, and you can gain some good momentum.
Fabulous. Again, the team spirit came through, and not to take everything in life so seriously. I think we sometimes overthink, over-engineer. One thing, I mean, I'm a technologist for over 2 decades now, and we continuously innovate, and that's where we make differentiations. Adobe is one of the biggest innovators in the world. You, as a cricketer, as a batsman, have been a pioneer of innovation. If there was patenting on your shots, you would have had about probably 50 odd IPs and patents to yourself. See, Ben spoke about that scoop, and then you created that half jab, and you created so many strokes across the line. I mean, some of the balls were going to get wided, and then you converted them, covering it over extra cover for a large 20 rows back in the stadium. See, this sort of innovation was unseen before you took them on. The innovation comes. You said you practice normal, regular things, and then you experiment. Talk about the mindset of innovation, because I'm very keen to understand how your thought process worked. And of course, it will work over the years, whatever you do.
Yeah, I sort of, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I touched on a few things earlier, but which I really want to mention again, because it's worth mentioning, I think. First of all, and this will give a lot of people hope that are trying to achieve whatever they are. I winged a lot of it. A lot of it was just putting myself out there. You know what? I've got a lot to lose, but who cares? I'm just going to go for it here. And on the back of that, if I can just reverse a bit, and I mentioned this before as well, preparation and really getting the basics in place and really nailing it down. I had a lot of technical issues growing up. Early on in my career, I was found out with a straight ball coming back off the deck a little bit. I would miss straight ones. Really nailing that down. I was in tears a few times in the change room, doing this, having the shower after I got out in the same fashion 5 times in a row. I was literally in tears, but that takes me to my next point, a deep, deep desire to want to do something special and wanting to achieve it and want to have success. So those are the consistent things that come to mind. It's not so much the amazing shots, this and that. That is me just winging it, to be 100% honest with you. But the preparation, nailing it down and having this incredible desire from a very young age. And that is a choice, Sauvik. It's not something that you have to have, otherwise you're not going to make it. You can really force yourself in your mindset to want to be that guy to make the difference. And I've always had that in me from a young age. I've really drilled it in. And that's what carried me through the dark days. The first few years of my career, there were so many times where I could have got dropped out of the team. Yeah. Who knows how I would have reacted with that. I just decided there's no ways I'm letting this go. So it's a deep passion, and then prepping and really taking it into the nets. I've at one stage had Sean Pollock doing underarms with me because my bat swing was so skew. So I've been through all of that. And then towards the end, Dale Stone bowling to me at the Chinnaswamy with 40,000 people cheering my name. I just winged it. I decided I've come this far. Might as well put my body on the line here and give it everything I have. Because if it does come out, if it does come off on the day, I might just achieve something special. And then I started believing that I could do this on a consistent basis, which happened a few times after that. And that's a funny thing. You wing it once or twice, and then you start believing in yourself and you start doing it more often.
Then it becomes a factory model. The winging becomes part of your factory model.
Exactly.
Ben, one last question, Ben. I think this is something which we've not spoken is, I went to watch the Legends a few days back in Wankhede, and I saw somebody jumping around and flying around, and I said, who's this youngster working? Maybe they've inducted a youngster in. I said, it was Jonty Rhodes. He was still flying, and he was still diving and flying in the air. Your fielding and the way South Africans have fielded across the world has changed the way we look at fielding. This is not much spoken part because, everybody loves I mean, what has been your thought process in the South African team's mindset in changing the way the world cricket feels today? And that would be my last question, Ben.
I'm glad you mentioned Jonty, because if you're going to ask me the question without mentioning his name, I was going to mention his name anyway.
Yeah, I had to. It's a Jonty Rhodes is a different pedestal.
But once again, look, as I mentioned before, I was quite natural with ball sports growing up. But in 1992, watching Jonty Rhodes run out live against Pakistan in that World Cup, that put a seed in my mind that I wanted to do that on the field as well. And obviously that went into my batting as well. But that takes me to a point where role models play a big role. I was 8 years old then, and I was practicing it every single day in the backyard. I was practicing that dive. And so it came as a natural thing 12 years later when I made my debut to throw my body around like that, because that's what I wanted to do growing up. And then that went into my batting as well, and a few other things. But that's the kind of role model I needed at the age of 8 to really show me it's not about yourself. You put your body on the line to do something special for your team and for your country. And I've always played my cricket like that. And I think the day, if I stop doing that, that's the day that I won't hit another ball again.
What a spirit. Pleasure. Thanks for answering them. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks, Sauvik. So, AB, just one thing, that particular match that Sauvik was referencing there, whilst you might have been in your dark days as an Australian cricketer, that to me was a dark day as well, because we'd lost the Ashes. I think we'd beaten South Africa in the Test series, although Ntini and Callis had a phenomenal series. And then to watch that match, and I remember sitting around a room and there was probably 4 Australians and 7 South Africans in that room. And I could not get out of there fast enough. And they were locking the doors. It was just one of those, it's burned into my memory, just a phenomenal effort by South Africa there. I've got a few questions. So question number 1, if you had a chance to play one match for another IPL team, this is a controversial question, which one would it be?
Obviously, the World Challengers Bangalore. There's no other team for me at the moment, that's for sure.
Very politically correct answer. I like it. You obviously mentioned earlier that you're a winger. When you kind of talk about developing the gut feel, how much of a role does your gut feel make in terms of the decisions that you make, both professionally in cricket but also personally in life?
Plays a huge role. The one thing about it, you're never 100% sure, so there's always going to be doubt, and that's normal. It's dead normal. Every time I walk out to bat, and that's the draining part of cricket, I'm not sure that I'm going to perform, but that's also the beautiful part of cricket, because that uncertainty forces you to be courageous. So if your gut feel tells you something, more often than not, you just got to follow it. Sometimes there is room for a bit of patience, and if you play enough and you gain experience, you sort of start seeing those signs. Maybe a time to be a bit more patient, even though my gut feels telling me just go 666. But so patience plays a role, and just having that balance, I think, is really important. But playing a lot of games, having the basics in place, and preparing properly gives you the best opportunity in the middle to make the right decisions at the right time.
One question, and I think this one's going to be a tough one to answer, just given what you shared with us earlier. The post-COVID world and the potential of fanless stadiums for cricket to keep the game going through a period of time. And especially for younger cricketers who haven't had the chance to really feed off the energy around the stadium. What does that look like to you? How do you see potentially a fanless stadium cricket world for the next couple of years, potentially?
First of all, I don't think it'll impact the youngsters as much. Look, it is a dream to play in front of big crowds, but we all start in front of empty crowds. When I was 19 making my professional debut, I think there were 4 people in the crowd. So you can see that as the ground staff now. They become the new crowd. So that's okay. Hopefully it won't last for a very long time and the crowds can come in again. If they don't, we're just going to have to adapt like we do with everything else in life. It's part and parcel of life to adapt as you move on. Nothing ever stays the same. And I see this challenge as pretty similar. It'll be sad not to have crowds again, and we all absolutely love to play in front of crowds. But it brings new opportunities, what we spoke about earlier. I mean, virtual crowd. We can get a lot of noise going. It can all obviously still be broadcast on TV. There are lots of opportunities, I think, and I wouldn't like to be the mastermind behind it all because I don't think I'm clever enough for that. But all I know is, as humans, we've always found a way to adapt to different situations and challenges, and I see this as no different. We will make it work.
So, Sauvik, it sounds like a good potential venture there for Tata Digital to create the stadium of the future and the experience for both the cricketers and the fans.
That's the future of cricket, as per if AB is saying. The future of cricket is AR and VR with 22 people in the field. Well, I hope not. I hope genuinely they come back.
No, I think it would be a very sad state of affairs if we were past the days of big stadiums. I know growing up, whether it was in India or Africa or England or Australia, those are some of my best memories, is sitting there in the long hot days, no wickets for a good 3 hours, and then you get 4 or 5 wickets tumble, and just the unknown nature of things was just really what's special about the sport. The last question, and I think it's a great one because it's very much aligned. What's the secret behind those ridiculous, outstanding catches? I think a lot of people have.
I'm going to bore you with the answer again, but 1000% desire. It's an attitude. It's just the will. It's something that you plant in your heart, and I'm praying for the ball to come our way every single delivery. And once you have that mindset and attitude, you tend to do amazing things. Sometimes you do drop a catch as well, which make you think, oh my word, I don't know why I was praying for the ball to come our way. But then you move on to the next one because you wait for the next opportunity. But that's what it comes down to. It's just really wanting. And I actually had a very good discussion with Faf du Plessis about this point before. And I know Virat is the same. But we want the ball to come our way. And I get irritated if the ball goes somewhere else the whole time. I would swap myself in the field and I'll say, you go there. I want to be here because the ball's coming here the whole time. So that's what it comes down to. Plain and simple. Obviously, you must prepare. You must practice your hands, the reaction. But that attitude to want the ball to come your way, that is priceless.
Fantastic. AB, Sauvik, thank you both very much. Really appreciate your time tonight. I know the audience has really appreciated your time. And I want you to both make sure you stay safe and healthy, and hopefully we'll be through this and back to seeing you play cricket in India and Australia and across the globe, AB. And Sauvik, looking forward to catching up when I'm next in India. Thank you both. Have a great evening. And for everyone who's joined us, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the last hour. And to all of you, please stay safe and stay healthy through this time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, AB. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.